disagree with the previous speaker. I mean, if we can protect our environment, and go forward economically, there's absolutely no problem. And I think that some of the work that's been going on with the geothermal exploration and the potential that it holds for New Zealand is fantastic. And we can actually lead not only in that form of energy, but also in the science around which it's being created around that. Mr. Speaker, in principle, we're in support of this bill. We would like to see it go to the Select Committee. We'd very much like to hear a lot of the submitters that have obviously put some work in behind the scenes and submit to the Select Committee in public. We do support an independent agency, a standalone agency, an agency that is away from the Minister, has got some distance from the Minister, that can look at the impact on the environment, not be swayed by political considerations, political pressures, advocate for the environment where necessary, and I think that's very important. And I'm heartened in a way to see the people who have got in behind certainly the principle of this bill, people like Jan Wright, the Commissioner for the Environment, and Gary Taylor, many people who have been worked hard for our environment in New Zealand. The question really is whether those factors, the independence, the ability for it to work independently of a minister, to advocate for the environment, whether it will be, and obviously to bring to hear people's concerns and to really have a transparent and open process of submissions, whether in fact that's actually going to occur. And I'm, unlike the previous speaker, not hugely heartened by what has happened in one of the biggest projects, one of the national roads of national party or national significance, which is the State Highway 20 through the suburb of Waterview, which is in my electorate. The community there has not, I would argue, Mr. Speaker, had the information that they need. They've been given enormous amounts of documentation, technical documentation to go through, some 6 folders of documentation to go through, 54 different resource consents to look through, and given 20 working days in order to do that. Now, if I was going to build a non-complying deck on the back of my house, I would get 20 working days in which to be able to consider, my neighbour would be able to consider the deck that I'm building. For this project, they are getting exactly the same amount of time. And Mr. Speaker, I believe that is totally and utterly inadequate. It has been fast-tracked through against the wishes of the Auckland City Council, against the wishes of the then Eden Albert Community Board. Both of those were ignored. They did not want that to happen. They got 20 working days to submit. They then have now got back an enormous amount of material in order to be able to consider expert opinion, all of which, even if you were the most accomplished technical firm, engineering firm in Auckland, you would need that amount of time to go through the volume of material that ordinary residents in my electorate have been asked to be able to go through. And then over Christmas, and because Waterview is famed for making announcements over the Christmas period, last year they completely changed the project. About 6 days, Mr. Joyce did 6 days before Christmas, it announced, of course, there wouldn't be any publicity over the Christmas period. And it's a very cynical approach of ramming this through. It's the sort of the spirit in which the approach to this project has happened. People have to study that over the Christmas break and then have to come back to the submission process early in the new year. The other aspect, other than the process, Mr. Speaker, is the fact that some of these concerns are actually very significant. Take, for example, the smokestack. There's 2 exhaust stacks in this motorway that are going to be built 45 metres from a primary school and kindergarten. 70 metres high, the smokestack, and they will not be filtered. So in effect, what's going to happen right beside a primary school is an enormous construction is going to go up right beside a primary school. It's going to take out 4 of the local soccer fields in the area, and although some of them have been replaced in other aspects, it's going to scatter fields all across the region. And the very simple things that would make this project much more acceptable to the local community have been completely ignored. For example, one small thing, the Metro Soccer and Softball Club that on which this motorway is right beside, if they had an all-weather pitch, they would be able to double or triple the number of games being played on that field. That's being ignored. This is a $1.4 billion project of which the Auckland City Council has made a number of submissions of the things that they want to have to mitigate the effects on the local community. And in a $1.4 billion project, you can't find 10 million or whatever it takes to make an enormous difference to improve the lives of the local community. Well, Mr. Matt, if this was going through North Shore, you would be standing where I am standing and demanding the money that you need in order to mitigate some of these sort of impacts. This is a 6-lane highway through a suburban region. Of course he wants tunnels. Of course he wants tunnels. These people simply don't want a 70-metre high smokestack right beside their primary school. I mean, I don't think that's too much to ask, Mr. Speaker. The other thing that I want to talk about, control building. There's a control building that's being built. It was going to be 6 metres high. It's now being told that it might be 10 metres high. The dimensions of this project is changing as the residents are making their submissions. It hasn't even been finalised, and the residents are being asked to make submissions. And the acquisition of houses, Mr. Speaker, I've had a number of people in my electorate say that the acquisition of houses through the pricing of these houses, whoever's doing the valuations on these houses, is seriously undervaluing the houses in this region as well, because when they go out and get independent valuations, they're finding those independent valuations are invariably at least 20% higher than what the NZTA approved value is putting the prices at. Mr. Speaker, this is an example in Waterview of the EPA in process. This is an example of the way that it may work. And if this is the way it's going to work, and if this is the experience we can take before the bill even comes before the Select Committee, then I actually think we have some major concerns about this. And I will be very interested to hear the views of not only the local community on this, but also from the other submitters who are out there trying to protect our environment. Because so far I don't see the independence from the Minister. I don't see an agency that's going to go out there and protect and really promote the environment. I don't see an agency that will really give to allow the full voice of the local community to actually have a real say in a project such as the Waterview Tunnel project. So I believe, Mr. Speaker, that this is an important piece of legislation. It could bring, I think, some very, very good outcomes to our environment, but only if, and I repeat, only if this piece of legislation is independent, is truly listens to the community, and is able to go out there and advocate for our environment. And I say, Mr. Speaker, that looking at the example of Waterview and what is happening there, I don't have a lot of confidence. When you see how this EPA is being rolled out in practice, it is not the piece of legislation that we hoped it might be, and bringing the outcomes that it might bring. So, Mr. Speaker, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak on this bill. I look very much to hear the views of those out there who are listening tonight and who have great
Sorry to
hopes for
interrupt
the
the member.